Welcome back, Smite fans. It feels like we were here not too long ago.
Feels like just yesterday.
Just yesterday.
I feel like a full day actually did pass during that set.
We came through, and we now get to move on for more North American action.
I'm definitely excited for this one as well. It's going to be Myth Gaming versus Strictly Business. Two pretty strong teams so far. Relatively strong showings, at least, from both of these teams. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity. Myth Gaming, by the way, formerly known as In Memory of Michael.
Yeah, and for people who don't know, this one's kind of at the same scale that you would expect when you saw Astral versus Obey. It was kind of, when you separate them, I think it was Aggro who was saying, it was kind of like two teams, and it was top to second, and now it's going to be top to second. Strictly Business now technically behind Astral Authority, but they were tied for first coming into this one.
Strictly Business, though, if they're able to walk away with a set victory, they have the opportunity to bring things back into standing, although that's going to be a pretty difficult feat to accomplish, considering that Myth Gaming has been putting up quite a fight.
Getting better every single week as they step ahead and continue pushing forward. Picks and bans are really kind of what goes their way. If they can grab what they're comfortable with, we've seen a lot of prowess on the side of Myth to be able to push forward. And Strictly Business going with the tried and true, just get rid of the Odin.
I wouldn't be surprised to see a Sobek ban potentially as well from Strictly Business. A lot of control for Myth whenever they get that god in their hands. Instead, it's going to be the Amus and Cobb.
That one, that's a target. That's immediately, that's KeegsMate. We've seen what you can do with this. We just do not want you to have that, and we're going to try to hold on to that and just make sure that he can't either perform well in the team fights, which he does if he gets it, or split push objectives, which he does if he gets it. So either way, they're trying to keep themselves safe.
Keegs has been such a strong acquisition for Myth Gaming. Ever since he joined up with that roster, he has been making waves, and it goes to show that his mechanical skill alone as a Hunter player is more than enough to help him through that laning phase. I like the priority involved from Strictly Business, though, where they opted to pick up that Skadi first and foremost, get a really strong god to lane with, if anything.
Geb usually doesn't make it through the bans. He's been kind of taken away in the console side lately, but being able to get picked up, Myth grab Osiris along with him. But honestly, the other side's looking just as strong, if not maybe a little stronger, with the Ganesha locked in after the Skadi. Strictly Business, this is a really strong comp, and honestly probably exactly what they would have wanted coming into this.
A ton of early game already from Strictly Business, and the Raijin even more sealing the deal. And I love this Raijin combination with the Ganesh. Those Dharmic Pillars going to be some excellent setup with the slows. You already have a fairly wide range whenever you go up into those Taiko drums. This is going to make it all the easier for Strictly Business looking for that combo.
I'm kind of wondering if maybe we'll see him force them walk out and in and out and in just to get a lot of damage down. It'd be kind of hard to accomplish and get that perfect setup, but it'd be a pretty cool combo to have come through. Soul on the one side. Naja, actually, I think is the one standout ban to me. Everything else is like, okay, I can understand it. That one is more than likely just a, hey, we know you can perform with this.
I'm actually a fan of the Naja ban, especially when Myth is taking Serqet for themselves. Serqet, more of the isolator or isolating factor for Myth. They really just want to have a god that can disorient the backline, jump inside of it, have the mobility to escape as well. And Serqet's also pretty great when it comes to jumping on top of Raijin.
And pretty much everything you just described in wanting in a jungler, Strictly Business get as well in the Susano, so they'll be able to move around the map as fast, keep up with the Serqet, which I think is the big one, is she is normally really hard to lock down. She can get in, get out, run around, and no one has a strong ability to keep up with her. Even if you get her dash, she has a jump, and even if you get that, she can just throw you away. So potentially being able to chase her down and continue that aggression is going to be the Susano. Strictly Business, they really want that 2-0.
Evening things out with their draft by giving Ryan Jarman that Sobek instead. This is going to be quite an interesting matchup between these two solo laners, usually accustomed to seeing Delnyy on that Sobek selection, which is the primary reason why Ryan Jarman wanted to take that one away from his enemy today.
Looking to get the aggression. KeegsMate running back onto the Chiron that he normally does. And when that happens, this is something he has good luck with it. We've seen him be successful on this. And with the way things have been going for Myth just throughout the few weeks that they've played, they've been getting better each time. They've been working together a lot better, and I think being able to have him accompanied with Inbowned on the Geb, it's going to allow them to lock up a lot more.
The only concern I have for Inbowned on this Geb is Matt Koiz is running the Ganesha, and that silence can be pretty problematic, especially when you're trying to get those shields off onto your teammates, or maybe even if Inbound is looking for that blink initiation with the Cataclysm on Geb. Ganesh, again, going to be an interesting factor to break through to launch that.
All the starts going the way you would expect. Strictly Business being able to keep control of their own buffs, and that's kind of the big one here. No team thought they were strong enough to go in for an early invade. They didn't go for an early fight. They're just going to go ahead and pay respects. They recognize the strengths of the other team. Even though Strictly Business is coming out of this slightly favored overall, they still recognize that Myth has been on the rise, and even now they're getting some damage down to Inbound, but they don't want to commit too heavily. Some
pretty standard starts as well. Leaving Crimson alone in the mid lane because of the fact that he's Soul, he'll have a lane advantage, or not necessarily a lane advantage since he has to worry about that Susano and the Raijin, but he'll be safe enough to get the farm that he needs and survive against the pressure that Kaeydan and oBoronic could potentially put out.
And this has been a big one, mainly for Soul. She's pretty safe. She can come through and not have to worry about a lot of that. And Raijin on the other side does have a lot of clear and has a lot of push early on that Crimson, they recognize that from Myth. They know they're not going to be able to push too far forward. They're just going to go ahead, play to their strengths and keep it as safe as possible. As Inbound maybe looking for a good gank over here, but it's kind of a risky one.
It's a little bit too soon, I think, and the fact that Matt Koiz and Fatal Ghost have the lane pressure, there's really no need for Inbound to try and get that shockwave off onto Fatal Ghost. It would probably work against him, if anything.
Unfortunately here, Ryan, while he does have that Sobek, and we're used to seeing that on Delnyy, he's going to be left in a 2v1. Jumpahhh has had a ton of plays that have stood out to me for Myth, and a lot of it has been getting into the backline, getting a lot of those kills, and that's exactly something Serqet is good at. We mentioned it in picks and bans, and it's really good, like you had said, against a Raijin.
And for Jumpahhh, he's mostly just trying to focus on establishing that early farm. If he's able to hit level 5 soon enough, he might be able to get some plays going in the mid lane, also applying that pressure into the solo lane. Ryan Jarman, they recognize him as a threat. He usually has a very controlling laning phase, and I think that he's very evenly matched with Delnyy, so it should be a pretty fun solo lane matchup for these two to go at it.
I think it's going to be interesting to see how the junglers adapt to this as well, because we've seen Jumpahhh kind of bouncing in and out over here, and a lot of solo lane pressure in previous console weeks has led to a big win for one of the teams, just allowing that solo laner to not only dominate their lane, but just scoop right on into every team fight after that and zone, do damage, destroy. A lot of it has been Kakulin, but it also does come through that they have that little bit of extra farm coming into it, so they're a little bit stronger if they can get that advantage.
Having that little bit of farm, I mean, sometimes it makes all the difference, just being level 5, 2 creeps ahead of your team or opposition. That could really be the distinguishing factor for getting the first blood and not, or being the first blood, I should say. And right now, for Strictly Business, it does appear as though Myth has a slight experience advantage, at least as far as level 5 is concerned.
Ryan kind of stuck without that. Sobek, always known, he's great for solo just because he can regen that mana if he wants to use his ult for that, but not being able to have that option or the aggression that he could come out of it, the slow being available, kind of puts him back, but we don't see Delnyy or Jumpahhh go in too far. They're lining up as though maybe Delnyy wants to fight. He might want to go in and just stop some backs, and right there he's going to be able to get that. But he's not looking for a big fight, and I think that's going to be the story for the beginning of the game here. Neither team really wants that early aggression.
KeegsMate, though, he's got to be careful about that knock-up potential from Matt Koiz. If he gets caught by that dash, especially if Koiz is fast enough to catch Keegs in his own dash, that Chiron doesn't move very fast when he elects to try and escape.
And that's going to be the lockdown that they could get. And Ganesh really good at keeping him in track as well, because he can go through with the silence right after, make sure that Keys gets locked down and held into this lane and held accountable for any actions he might take. Whereas Inbound, he's great to be able to help that out. He has the shield, he can get rid of some CC, but the problem is he has to be there to do that. And it looks like he's going to be hovering over on the right-hand side, trying to help get the solo lane back to, or the solo lane in more of an advantage, while Keegs is left kind of alone in a 1v2.
I'm viewing this more so as Keegs really just trying to use that ultimate to help out his teammates. He wants to just drop that long range. Speaking of which, Keegs getting blocked out of his own bot, but now it's Jumpahhh making the aggression onto Kaeydan. Kaeydan eating that Cobra's Kiss, but not enough follow-up damage just yet. Too much mobility on that Susano to get trapped.
And that's going to be the hard part of grabbing a target. You want to get some of those low mobility people just to lock them down when you're Serqet. You toss them back into your team, they can CC chain them for you, keep them in there. But unfortunately, Susano isn't one that doesn't have a lot of mobility. He is going to be able to bounce around wherever he wants, has all sorts of getaways. And it seems like we're going to see that come through for Strictly Business.
They were able to pull Kaeydan's beads, however, and that's pretty important because if they're able to get even the slightest bit of CC down on that Susano, he should end up going under. But speaking of which, Crimson actually trying to get into that Disapparate form, but it's not going to be enough. Kaeydan with the first blood.
Oboronic left with no mana, and his ult, he's going to go through and get a little bit of damage down on inbound, but it's just going to be the call for the back off. They're able to get the first blood, and that's all they wanted. And it goes on to Susano, which is not who you want to be starting to get ahead. Kaeydan now not only has the mobility, not only has the fact that, yes, his beads are still down for a little bit, but he's been able to show the aggression come through, get a kill because of it, and it kind of puts the hurt on the Myth wherever they put those rotations.
Just a little bit slow on that Disapparate form. It's going to cost Crimson his life. He actually didn't even get a chance to use his Purification Beads. By the time he probably even thought about getting free from that CC, his health bar was already too low, felt as though he's going to die anyway. Might as well hold that off for the next engagement.
And I prefer seeing that personally just because there's been so many times that it's you're already dead, don't use your Aegis, don't use your beads, you're going to die anyway. And then you see it popped, and the next time they need it, they end up taking a spill that they probably wouldn't have otherwise. And being able to hold on to that, it's kind of a heads-up play coming down from Crimson. A lot of players have trouble distinguishing those two moments.
Holding on to his beads means that Kaeydan is still going to have to be careful if he chooses to try and aggress against Crimson. And Crimson will also be more on the lookout for that wraparound by Matt Koiz as well.
Jumpahhh going to come through, though, and get the taunt, looking for the damage onto Kaeydan. He's going to throw him back right to the soul, and into the Sharks he goes, a couple of ticks down, and that's going to be Jumpahhh getting a kill return for his team. Oboronic left around in the mid lane, but he's not going to be able to get anything.
That's the combination that Myth Gaming were looking to try and make First Blood happen with when they initially pulled Kaeydan's Purification Beads. As long as those beads are unavailable, that is an incredibly strong amount of damage coming from those two ultimates.
And being able to immediately turn it into farm and being able to pick up the kill, you get a return and then go over and start taking the Fire Imp, start looking for whatever you can grab afterward, knowing that, yeah, okay, it's great to get a kill, it's great to get a return kill, but you have to make sure that you're not getting complacent with it. You have to be able to continue farming up, make sure you get ahead, and Myth need that lead because Strictly Business are just a little bit stronger overall.
Inbound and KeegsMate, though, they want to try and invade Strictly Business's jungle. Purple buff hasn't gone down just yet. Inbound using that Gip Shield to cleanse himself with that Permafrost slide around, taking out Calder, and now going into the rollout form just to get back to his own side of the map.
A lot used for a failed gank, and looking like it's going to be a lot used for maybe a successful gank. Kaeydan going to pull back Jumpahhh, and he's going to be able to pick up the kill there with Ryan. Both of them going to be able to collapse onto that as KeegsMate did get aggressive one more time. He's going to be throwing out the shots, him and Inbound going with the knockup, but they don't have the damage to confirm what they need. On the other side, Oboronic was able to find the solo kill in the mid lane, and Crimson's going to take the spill.
Oof. Crimson seemed as though he was probably marked by that Raijin, and once that's on you, the damage starts really pouring out. That was going to be his ultimate, but now it's KeegsMate actually going up into his own ultimate, trying to find some help to his Geb. He wants Inbound to stay alive, and for now, it's going to make all the difference.
Oboronic rotating in, looking for the last few hits, going to be able to find that little bit of damage. Now Keegs, as much as he wants to fight, as low as the health bars are on the side of Strictly Business, doesn't have his ult, doesn't have the damage he needs to be able to do this.
Keegs actually needs to be really careful here. Kaeydan has enough mana, he could potentially run him down instead. KeegsMate just a little bit too close to his tower line. Kaeydan doesn't feel comfortable with that one. It's going to be the Oracles for Strictly.
Low health, low mana. More than likely going to go ahead and hover back. That could have been if we had wanted an early push for a Gold Fury, but I like the call to play it safe because it does do a little bit more damage, and there was still the call. The health bars were still good for the members of Myth that could have rotated in, and specifically KeegsMate not being able to do a lot of steal potential there.
Without the Dharmic Pillars, Strictly Business probably don't want to try and look for an early Gold Fury. Myth actually have the better secure, I would say, on that Gold Fury objective. It all depends on Crimson if he's able to just drop every single tick of that Supernova on top of it, because Oboronic going to the Taiko drums, it's going to take him a little bit longer to launch out every single amount of damage that his ult could put out.
It will be big in changing the team fight. That's where we've seen Raijin show up a lot and do a lot of damage to teams where they haven't been able to expect it. They come in and all of a sudden they're getting pushed or pulled depending on how Raijin really feels, and changing the kind of flow of the fight, the positioning of Myth here could get affected by it. And with Strictly Business already up 3 kills, it's not something you want to do is get pulled right back into the team.
Ryan Jarman, though, in that solo lane against Delnyy has done a great job so far at just keeping the Osiris trapped in the lane and finding that kill onto Jumpahhh as well with the assistance of Kaeydan. I think is also incredibly beneficial because it just ensures that Myth doesn't try to look for any buff invades off these respawn timers.
Keeping control of the map is just as important as being able to find good team fights or being able to find some of those neutral objectives. Now with Portal Demon spawning, it's going to open up maybe a little bit more. Normally we don't see that for a little bit longer in the game, so I don't expect either Strictly Business or Myth to kind of turn their eyes that way. But as long as they can keep their own jungle buffs on their own belts, they'll be happy with it as Jumpahhh and Inbound looking for a potential invade, and they catch the red buff right as it falls. 2
blinks, though, early on for Myth just means that Jumpahhh will probably be the follow-up factor from Inbound's engagement. Inbound has a lot of potential to be aggressive, which most teams might not expect from a Geb.
Not half as much aggression as I would have thought coming out from a double blink being picked up for both of them right now. Serqet waiting around inside the purple buff for the prime opportunity to come forward and be able to get that blink and use it to get that aggression. But the problem is spotted out by Matt Koiz. He's going to run away. He's going to use those Dharmic Pillars. Serqet with the taunt trying to find the damage, but Keegs is taking just as much in the back line. Inbound with the shield just to try to pull his team away, but the problem is he's now in the front line and he's the one who's the prime target. Typhoon comes through and it's going to be the knockup for the kill.
But so much was invested there just to take out Inbound. They used the Dharmic Pillars, they had the Skadi ultimate on top of the rest, and now it's actually Keegs in a whole lot of trouble. oBoronic actually just gonna solo ult that Chiron. Goodbye, Keegs.
I think it's a small difference, but I think Jumpahhh, had he thrown the kill of the Susano the other direction, spread the poison a little bit, he was low, you knew he was gonna die, maybe some potential to have a cleaner fight.
He might have been a little bit concerned that it wasn't going to be enough poison tick damage to actually kill Kaeydan, and then he throws the kill away from his team to have the secure.
It's one of those fine lines you have to ride as Crimson. Taking a lot from oBoronic.
That is some spooky damage already from oBoronic, and this is kind of what oBoronic loves to do. He's really just trying to be a huge utility factor to the team as well. He picked up that Spear of the Magus, in fact, just really trying to toss out that damage.
And it's going to allow him, it's going to help eat through a lot of these targets that are a little tankier, that are a little bit harder for him to hit through. Plus, at this point, he has the better clear. He knows he's going to be able to out-farm the Soul overall. And in the 1v1, we've seen him already take that kill. He's sitting at 3-0-1 right now, so he's not really that worried about what Soul might be able to pull out.
I'm curious if he's opting to build into that Warlock Sesh or the Gem of Isolation, and it could possibly even be an Ethereal Staff. Although E-Staff, it'd be a little different. It'd be a lot different than what we're used to seeing.
A little out there, but it would give him a little bit tankier, and Raijin has been one of those mages. He's a little harder to kill, a little higher health overall, which it's harder to lock down unless you're Serqet, which you can lock down very easily, but being able to kind of extend that, I honestly wouldn't mind it. It still might be lacking a little bit of the damage side, but he'd be able to sustain himself.
I think I'd be all right with it simply because of Jumpahhh on the Serqet. That would make life a little bit more difficult for him. He wants to just get in, get out really quick, and you can't really afford to do that when your targets have so much health stacked up.
And I really like that kind of that upfront knowledge coming out from Strictly Business to be able to look at the team coming out. And instead of going kind of a cookie cutter build and saying, these are the items I need in the order I want them, being able to look at it and say, like, this item, you don't normally want this. You don't normally want to build this, but it's really good in this scenario, so I'm going to go ahead and grab that up.
That's just one of the differences for competitive play, where players kind of just try to adjust to their surroundings, and that's sort of what you're stuck doing. Speaking of which, Strictly Business still hanging around, just farming out these lanes. KeegsMate, though, starting to trail behind Fatal Ghost as far as experience is concerned.
And a lot of this, I mean, not Inbound. Well, I guess Inbound hasn't been spending a lot of time over there until recently he's gone back over. But Matt Koiz has pretty much been exactly where he needs to. And I think the 3 assists on the side of the Skadi is helping out Fatal, just keeping a little bit ahead. But 2 levels already grabbed up. And it looks like he's just going to continue that aggression. It's not a lot that Keegs can do to fight into the Skadi.
It's also super annoying for Myth because the few times that they have made rotations over to that duo lane, it's ended up costing them their solo buffs, their solo lane buffs. Jumpahhh just lost his speed from the invade off of Ryan Jarman, and now with the buff respawn timers coming up, Ryan Jarman's looking to proxy farm and pull it away, and Strictly Business wants the Gold Fury.
Going for the bait to try and find the kill or the Gold Fury. Honestly, either works for them. Jumpahhh in the backline coming through, but he's going to get the damage dumped onto him by oBoronic, trying to find the kill, and he gets it with the last little tick right there, bringing them up to 7 over the 3 Myth have been able to find. And they're still in a good position to try and bait out a couple more fights.
Unfortunate for KeegsMate. He thought that Strictly Business was going to be committing to that Gold Fury, so he expended his Chiron ultimate already. The Masterful Shot being on cooldown means that he's going to lose a lot of that range that he might want for poking out Strictly Business.
And here we see Raijin doing pretty much everything you need. He's got the pen to be able to eat through anything that stands in his way, and he's got the damage that he's going to need in order to confirm kills as easily as he did onto Jumpahhh, who was not able to escape, even though he is as wily as a Serqet can be.
And Jumpahhh also feeling the repercussions of trying to go into the backside early on by himself versus oBoronic. oBoronic is just so massively farmed right now, 4-0-1. And it's so early in the game. He's had such a phenomenal start for a Raijin.
I know it was unintentional, but I really appreciate repercussions being used there, just because percussion drums make sense with Raijin coming into it. But he's not been huge. I mean, he's 4-0-1, which is huge for him, but he hasn't been like the tide-turning Strictly Business getting ahead. It's kind of that slow burn where by the time he comes into 24 minutes, 25 minutes into the game, all of a sudden he is making these tide-turning plays where Strictly Business is just kind of sweeping through, and it's been because of these kind of small silent kills. As he did go into the gym, it was not the Ethereal Staff, but another slow on top of that, which keeps Serqet under control even more.
And also, it's just going to be a little bit concerning. I think one of the main distinguishing points, though, for oBoronic in this game was when he got that solo kill off onto Crimson, it allowed him to make that early rotation into the duo, and that just put so much pressure onto Keegs, who was already experiencing a lot of pressure because of having his buffs invaded early on.
Once again, looking for the Gold Fury dance. They've started it up on the side of Strictly Business. Keegs around the wall. Has the ult, has the call that it's still being done. Matt Koiz, Fatal Ghost, oBoronic, but we see Kaeydan and Ryan all making the rotation. They actually want to full commit to this or get some kills out of it. We see the Blink Cataclysm come through, and it's going to be able to find 2, but the Gold Fury is going to go down, and it's going to end up falling. Fatal Ghost gets the kill on the Inbowned. The question is whether or not he was able to take it.
And now it's actually going to be Fatal Ghost still cleaning up, taking out Crimson as well. KeegsMate now in a lot of trouble, trapped in between 4 members of Strictly Business. Wasn't able to turn around, try and find a return fire onto Matt Koiz. Matt Koiz is so low, but no one can punish him.
Now being able to extend their lead, they grab the Gold Fury on the side of Strictly Business, and they're able to push forward with 3 kills immediately after. Tower cleanup as well, which makes them go even further. And Kaeydan is still back here, still chasing. Jumpahhh actually going to get caught out because of it. The teleport can come through, and he's going to be able to clean up the kill if he can keep the dash, but they're both very, very mobile, both very able to run. But Delnyy in the same spot, caught out, low health, 1 hit, and he's going to be dead.
And Jumpahhh just barely able to get away from Kaeydan, but it might not be over just yet. Kaeydan was thinking about it. I feel as though he might have sensed help was coming just because of the way that he backed off. They didn't want to risk diving that tower when instead he can just take it.
Going to come through Portal Demon, start it up, and Strictly Business trying to confirm it as best they can. Going to be able to grab that and continue their aggression. They've now taken the 2 big objectives they wanted to. They've pulled themselves a lead, 11-3 at 18 minutes, and 5,000 gold separates these teams.
This is already a massive lead for Strictly Business. It might not seem like it's that late in the game, but that's the problem, is that Myth are pretty much a late game composition. They're relying pretty heavily on Inbound, getting the necessary farm to have those Geb cleanses, because the shields are really what's going to separate Myth's teamfight potential from Strictly Business. It's just that they haven't really had an opportunity to utilize it.
I looked at the gold count and thought that went in favor of Strictly Business. That actually was Myth confirming that one.
Oh,
they actually grabbed that Gold Fury.
It was actually Keegs. It might have been Keegs with that Centaurus over the wall that had the steal on the Gold Fury. Wasn't too certain about it. I would thought for sure that it just went in favor of Strictly Business because of how handling that teamfight went in their favor, and then they had the follow-up kills as well.
But being able, even grabbing that, Myth are at a large deficit. It's not quite 5,000 now. They've been able to take a little chunk out of that, but it's still leaning heavily in favor of Strictly Business, and they're abusing that lead, similar to what we didn't get to see out of some of the other teams earlier today, where they just weren't able to push as forward as it was. Rival was one of those where they were very timid with their lead. Strictly Business not holding back.
Strictly Business is certainly playing way more aggressive, but on top of that, KeegsMate has even been forced into the Wing Blade. That is just a small glimpse of the issues that Myth Gaming has had to experience this game. I think that Koiz with that Dharmic Pillars has just kept Keeg so wildly out of position that he doesn't really have much other opportunity or much other choice than to build defensively.
And one of the other things that Myth has had going for them has looked like potentially Kaeydan wanted to go in on the mid lane, but he took a little bit too much damage, now has to fall back from his team as Keegs getting collapsed on by Koiz here. The ult coming through from Skadi. Fatal Ghost wants the kill, and Keegs is just low enough to take the damage, but the return ult coming down. Nice pretty rainbows, but ultimately not going to be able to find the kill.
But he forced out the ultimate from Fatal Ghost. He got the shell as well. oBoronic, though, made the rotation. He was trying to get a gank off, and instead it's going to be Delnyy that he's running into. Thorns are popped. Fatal Ghost does not want to attack anymore.
Ult comes through. Jumpahh's around, but does not have his control. Forced to run away. The sprint is popped. oBoronic is low. Dashing away. Masterful shot. Finds it, and Fatal Ghost ends up taking the spill to Crimson's rotation. Koiz, Kaeydan trying to clean up after their team. They're going to be able to get Keegs, but that's so far just 2 for 1, and it's not looking good.
Keegs, though, nowhere left to run. Crimson going to eat that Geb shield from Inbound. Now Inbound with a great knock with the 3 members from Strictly Business, but he's going to get caught out of his rollout, and it's going to be Ryan Jarman looking to collapse with the rest of his team.
Kaeydan looking to try and find at least one more kill to try and even it out overall. Delnyy in the back is low, but under the tier 2, going to feel safe. Ryan low, still fighting, going forward, right into Jumpahhh, gets caught out by the taunt, and gets cleaned up now 13-6. And that was the play Myth needed, and really it was just Strictly Business overstaying their welcome.
A little bit too frisky there from Ryan Jarman. I don't think it's the ideal situation to Sobek pluck into an almost full health target, but as a level 19 Sobek with relatively high protections, he just felt very confident in himself that there was going to be somebody to back him up. I don't think he realized that his team wasn't anywhere near him, though.
Now, being able to capitalize off of those kills coming forward, Crimson using Soul for what Soul is known for in some of these games. Safety and split pushing. The 2 S's for Soul to come through, and she gets a tower out of it and manages to come out with her life. And it looks like the Gold Fury is going to be under contention here in a little bit as it's spawning down. The pit is the big fighting point, and ultimately both teams are looking just to try and get that vision.
That team fight, though, displaying that Myth Gaming still has a little bit of bite back. They're going to be able to strip away this T1 tower on the solo side now because Ryan Jarman just respawned, and that's going to be a huge plus for Myth, just, again, helping them get a little bit more of the map control back in their favor.
And the big retaliation to me came down. oBoronic, Kaeydan taking that fall, taking the spill. They've gotten pretty big, and they've gotten pretty far ahead. But being able to show them that they're not immortal and that they can, in fact, be turned on if they continue that aggression might put Strictly Business's head back in place. They might have thought too hard about how far ahead they were. And even with a 5,000 gold lead, even with a 3,000 gold lead now, it's not enough to be able to go that hard.
oBoronic took incredibly aggressive pathing, and I can't blame him. He has just been a monster to deal with in this game, and it looked like a relatively safe way to go through the jungle just because he expected 2 members of his team are already there to back him up. Didn't really anticipate the entirety of Myth Gaming making that rotation.
Now looking to start up the Gold Fury one more time. Strictly Business fresh in their mind, recognizing that Myth was the ones who came in and took it. And Inbound has the Blink ready, the Cataclysm ready to go in and potentially do it again. The question is, will they be able to find it in time?
Nice little pull off of that Magi's Blessing from Inbound with that knockup. And just trying to really slow down Strictly Business from committing to this Gold Fury, although there goes the Cataclysm Blink in from Inbound. The engagement is good.
Unfortunately, not a lot of follow-up from his team. Delnyy comes into the backline, but it's not going to be enough. Now he's just locked in place, taking a lot of damage. The Dharmic Pillar's coming through. Jumpahhh going to be able to get the pluck and going forward. Try to find Koiz. One more hit is all it takes. The tick going to be enough to find the kill, and I believe it did not spread the poison down, so it's not going to be able to find any extra damage across this fight. But now Kaeydan potentially looking to try and continue the aggression after losing his own support.
And that's the benefit of having that masterful shot up for KeegsMate. He's just holding it as long as possible, just trying to make sure that he can get that kill for his jungler. always comes up huge whenever you get that markdown, because as soon as it comes flying through the air, you just know what's going to happen.
Unfortunately, Inbowned also ended up overstaying. Tried to hover around and ends up taking the spill. KeegsMate in a similar position, getting 1v1 boxed right now by Kaeydan. Serqet comes in for the save, and we'll be able to find it. KeegsMate has no mana. Gold Fury half health. Jumpahhh looking to go in, and Keegs doesn't have the ult, doesn't have the mana. Jumpahhh just going to get plucked and end up getting bursted. But Serqet's mobility going to be the saving grace. So slow, so hard to run, but there was no follow-up from Strictly Business, so he's safe.
It's almost like he was trying to moonwalk for a second there. Strictly Business, though, they'll be able to secure this Gold Fury after starting it. And I'm sure that they're happy not to be losing this one to KeegsMate. KeegsMate understanding that without any mana, he was probably just food for Strictly Business if he went any further into that pit.
I do like Myth's call, it looks like, on the other side. They came through and did the Portal Demon because they were like, all right, we're going to lose the Gold Fury. This isn't going to be as strong for us overall because we're going to end up falling behind. But we can try to minimize the lead that Strictly Business is going to be able to pick up because of it. Come back in, we'll be able to farm up, and we have an advantage over here now in this right-hand pit.
And I think that's still a plus for Myth, actually. Having control of that Portal Demon is probably a little bit more important than the Gold Fury, considering that they're not that far behind from losing that Gold Fury. And on top of that, Portal Demon is just map control.
Looking for the farm all across the board. Losing the Gold Fury this many times, or I guess just the one time, but at this point in the game, kind of gives Myth a speed bump in the road that they were trying to go down, just because now they don't really have anywhere to turn their aggression to if they want to fight into it. And with the 2 blinks, I still expect them to be looking for that aggression and wanting to fight a little bit more. Unfortunately for them, Strictly Business has had an answer every time.
What I think is pretty interesting here, out of everything that we've seen so far, is actually the build from Fatal Ghost. He wanted some sustain to be able to pull these objectives for long periods of time, and that's exactly what the Devourer Gauntlet is going to provide him with.
Fire Giant sitting 3 health, 2/3 health overall, as KeegsMate going to be spending his time split pushing with the aggression going back and forth. And this is kind of the hover around. He's getting something for his team while they are keeping Strictly Business in lock. Delnyy low, Crimson getting low as Kaeydan comes in to fight, but he's in a 1v3, and he's going to end up taking the spill because of it. Inbound does get traded out for him, but the jungler just a little bit more important overall.
With 2 members being so low, though, on Myth Gaming, that's going to be a hard reset for the team. They're just trying to get out. KeegsMate had started venturing over as well after split pushing that T2 tower, but finding that pathway just a little bit too dangerous to traverse.
Being able to get that and bring up the deficit that his team had, he's going to be able to minimize that a little bit more and put them in a position to continue on fighting. Tier 1, Tier 2 in the mid, both towers out of the duo lane side. Only the Tier 2 left on that solo side, so it opens Myth potentially more to get a little bit off of the map. They've been able to grab a lot of the gold that potentially will help them keep that lead, or at least even with Strictly Business.
KeegsMate had great map awareness during that last team fight. He trusted in his teammates to not all get picked at once, and as long as they survive, trading out 1 for 1, that's perfectly acceptable. Speaking of which, Jumpahhh still thinking about going in, and that sprint was preemptively popped.
A little bit late as well, just because it's preemptively popped. You're like, they're going to go in, but you pop it before any actual aggression came through, so now you're stuck without a sprint. They saw it happen on the side of Myth, and they know that they can come in and try to waste your relic. If they're paying attention, they also know that your shell is still down, and they might be able to go in and kind of abuse the fact that you've used these 2 really strong relics.
Matt Koiz was just ready to go ham. He wanted a frag, but the rest of his team was kind of just stuck in motion, waiting to see what Myth Gaming were actually trying to do. With the way that Jumpahhh was wrapping around, it seemed as though they wanted to play the aggressive, but just not enough chance to.
It's always one of those games to play. Are you the aggressor or the responder? If you are busy, stuck responding fight after fight, that's when you start to fall back just because you aren't able to do a lot. If you have good counter initiation, it might change it. Inbound going to get plucked, but it seems like Ryan's just trying to keep some control as the fight goes over to the mid lane. Kaeydan trying to do whatever he can. Fatal Ghost going to get Serqet poisoned all around. We have the stun coming through with the Cataclysm. Now Fatal Ghost just a couple hits away, but the team keeping good control, and the body blocks so far have been on point.
And it's going to be Delnyy claiming the life of Fatal Ghost, using that ultimate to get up and over Oboronic temporarily. But now it's going to be Jumpahhh with the blink in, gets 2, pulls the Purification Beast from Oboronic, and dashes away from the damage.
Every single ult just used, and it's not going to be enough to save Kaeydan's life. He's going to get knocked down there by Crimson on the right and the Fire Giant. It's been started up there by Myth as the rest of the team for Strictly Business is either distracted or too low to fight Oboronic. Matt Koiz can't even get in here, and while Ryan recognizes it's there, he's already used his ult. He doesn't have a lot of secure potential. He's just going to be able to walk around, come in, tail whip, and he has the Sickle Strike. The question is whether or not he's actually going to be able to do anything with it as the team turns and collapses on him.
Ryan Jarman versus the world, and it's going to be the world that wins it this time. Inbound, still having aggression on that FG. KeegsMate going to make sure to secure it for his team, and Oboronic and Matt Koiz just unable to get back in time.
Well, earlier I was kind of happy with Strictly Business using that lead and kind of using it to be aggressive. They went a little bit too aggressive, and they ended up paying for it now as they're stuck in a position. They've just lost the Fire Giant. They've lost 1 Gold Fury. And they lost a Portal Demon when it came down to it. Myth are definitely not going to be able to lay around and let this happen to them, as they have now taken the lead away as well in terms of gold. It's getting to the point where it's not going to make as big a difference, but for now it's still 1,000 in their favor that they can use to finish up those items first.
Target focus is making all the difference. That one defensive item for KeegsMate has really benefited him and kept him from dying to Kaeydan, I think on numerous occasions, or at least getting picked out of position. And having that additional movement speed as well is always perfect for a hunter like Chiron, because having to rely purely on that dash for escape, it's not very reliable if you've ever played Chiron before.
Being able to take objectives all across the map. They get the Fire Giant, turn that into a Gold Fury and a Portal Demon. And now sitting up 3,000 gold, almost 3,000, 2,500 experience, all in favor of Myth. They're going to turn that into the Wrecking Crew down the mid lane, take 1 tower, potentially take the second one, as they aren't necessarily an unstoppable force, but you don't really want to defend this and end up losing the fight, because then it just opens up the Phoenix. Because right now it seems like Ryan trying his best to stop the aggression, but it's just going to fall way too fast.
It's just a little bit too much for Ryan Jarman to zone out by himself. He's going to need some heavy assistance from Matt Koiz. A lot of pressure right now onto these 2 frontliners, and what also makes this super difficult is the fact that Strictly Business have double ADCs basically. Being on that soul, Crimson's going to have a lot of objective damage as well.
And being able to take the towers down faster, augmented by this Fire Giant coming into it as well. You can see exactly what that does to a tier 2. They walked in and it's gone. They get the gold, they get the lead, and they have now knocked down every tower Strictly Business had. Weakens the Titan a little bit for later when they decide to break on in. But I like the call to fall back and not get too aggressive under the Phoenix.
They're still going to have about 1.5 minutes by the time they're done backing and buying to push up one of the lanes. This could be a possible Phoenix siege. As to whether or not Myth Gaming want to commit to it is an entirely different story, but they're going to at least try and use the remainder of this Fire Giant for a pick.
If they can find some kills, if they can find some aggression, that's going to be what's good for them. But at this point, they've managed to take pretty much everything they needed to turn the game around. It looked like it was going to be a rough start for them, but they have not laid down and just let it happen. They've been figuring out the entire time. And this kind of shows the gap they've been closing. They were technically sitting down in like a 3rd, 4th area, but being able to come in and keep this kind of pressure on Strictly Business is big for the team.
Well, this was really a sudden shift as far as the map control and the general team fighting pressure played out. It was really all in Strictly Business's favor. It just seems like that one team fight where Fatal Ghost just gets collapsed on by Jumpahhh and Delnyy. He just can't escape from those 2 members. The Osiris just a little bit too tanky and able to fully commit to that Skadi that really turned that team fight around.
And a lot of the dual lane coming through caused a lot of trouble, just because earlier we saw when Oboronic made that one big rotation, he only has 1 death, but that 1 death was where Myth Gaming were able to finally turn things around and start picking up some of these objectives and pick up that lead. And now they're looking to try and find that control. It's really hard to break into the Phoenix. It's probably the first Phoenix is the hardest one to break into, because there's no pressure anywhere else. The team doesn't have to leave their base. They don't have to worry too far about what else you might take on the map, because they know everything is down. So you have to play into that knowing that they want you to come in.
Just a little bit too concerned, I think, about Oboronic piloting that Raijin. Those taiko drums, and you're sitting underneath that Phoenix anyway, which is basically your 6th man on the battlefield, just means that you are open season the entire time. And even Inbowned probably isn't feeling quite confident enough, despite being Geb and being really tanky. It's just not worth the risk.
And even, I mean, with the double blink, it's big for Inbound to be able to go in, but like you said, once the control comes down from Strictly Business, if he gets taken down, the shield's gone, all of a sudden his team is a lot more vulnerable. Yes, they have beads available right now, but in the future, I mean, that's going to be health, and that's going to be the CC cleanse that could come through and potentially change it. Myth, they decide, for better or for worse, they're just going to go for the Fire Giant that's going to spawn in 20 seconds.
It's just safer all around for Inbound to wait for his moment rather than trying to force one to happen, because they want Delnyy to not have to be an initiating factor. They want him to be the follow-up where he's just chasing after either oBoronic or Fatal Ghost. Ideally Fatal Ghost. If you keep that Skadi and the Calder away from the team fight, it'll be even more difficult for Strictly Business to get their damage output in the same way that they are looking for.
Myth really, really want this Fire Giant because it will be the means for them to open that final door into Strictly Business's base. But on the other side, they have a lot of control and a lot of damage on the side of Strictly Business that makes it a little bit difficult to break in. And a lot of that is going to be the fact that oBoronic can control the movement as well as damage of a team fight, and specifically a Fire Giant.
Kaeydan right now just trying to keep tabs on where the creep waves are being pushed up to. Myth Gaming right now has just been trying to push the waves in their favor, but Strictly Business actually has control as far as the waves being pushed is concerned, which is important because if a pick happens or if one team gets the Fire Giant, whichever lane is pushed up with creeps is the lane that they're going to want to try and siege first.
Big grasp right now for Myth Gaming to be able to have just a small lead and control over the Fire Giant pit to be able to move that. As we see the Blink Cataclysm come through, Fatal Ghost going to get caught out, but it's not enough damage to find the kill just yet. He's going to be able to run away, but he does use his ult as it stands right now. Masterful shot coming down to the backline just to keep Strictly Business zoned away and under control. And now we see is Delnyy doing what he needs to do. He's leading the way for his team and causing a lot of disruption.
But Delnyy, he pulled that ultimate from Fatal Ghost. Sprint has been popped. Ryan Jarman looking to maybe reinitiate. He's popping his own thorns. Crimson thinking better of trying to follow that one up. And now it's Jumpahhh under fire. oBoronic dashing in, but not wanting to do anything else with it.
36 minutes in, and a lot is on the line. If Myth Gaming can at least confirm themselves this Fire Giant or the Portal Demon, either one, they at least continue to keep a solid lead as they push forward right now. Though Jumpahhh going to get caught out, going to be able to jump away from the pluck, and he keeps himself alive just a little bit longer to be able to come back in. And with the Portal Demon picked up, as long as the team comes in grouped up, they're going to be able to come back in and potentially fight again in the pit.
Risk it for the biscuit. That whole time that Strictly Business was backing off towards their own back Harpies, trying to get a little bit more sustain going, particularly Fatal Ghost with the Devourer's Gauntlets, trying to just heal off those. The whole time, Keegs is just there on the backside, tipping away at that fire portal. Pretty
much everything that we've seen Keegs do on any other god that he's been given. The reason Amu's and Cobb was banned out is because he normally can do this a little bit stronger than he could if he was the Chiron, but he's still keeping that application through and showing why he is a good ADC and a good pickup for Myth here. Even when he's not impacting the fight crazy hard, he's impacting the map.
And Keegs just has such a strong understanding of where he needs to be when it comes to positioning. He doesn't really get caught out very often, and he's also incredibly cautious about his pathing. I think that's one thing that a lot of players can tend to overlook when it comes to ADCing.
Looking to try and keep some control over this zone is Strictly Business right now, but they don't have a lot to grasp onto. As we see, Portal Demon was just taken by Myth Gaming, and now they're trying to set up to do the Fire Giant. Keegs still hovering around in the back right there as the pluck comes through, looking for the kill onto Delnyy, but he's still Osiris, he's still tanking. Now he's got a little bit of extra health coming down from the Geb, trying to fight in as far as he can, and he's keeping the zone down. Ryan Jarman actually going to get picked up, but CC immunity is going to be his best friend.
And Jumpahhh, that's going to be his Cobra's Kiss eliminated from the team fight. Still, Kaeydan looking to follow that one up, trying to use his own Typhoon, but it's just off the mark. Instead, it's going to be the Taiko Drums stripping away at the health bar of Delnyy.
Delnyy getting low, shield going to be good, but Skadi Calder chasing him down, going to call that one back immediately. Now all ults off the line for Strictly Business, whereas we still have Cataclysm, we still have Soul to be able to drop a lot of damage, and Delnyy still has his jump to either engage or disengage, depending on how this next one goes, but a lot on the side for Myth to potentially confirm.
Delny's most likely going to want to use that Lord of the Afterlife as a chase down factor for this Skadi. Fatal Ghost having that sustain with the Devourer's Gauntlet, it's going to be useless if that ultimate from the Osiris connects.
Fire Giant started, Matt Koiz smells it out. The question is, does his team want to go in or not? They need to if they want to be able to grab this Fire Giant and be able to do something about it, and they're going to be able to collapse right on in. Myth looking to try and spread the love and spread the team, but it's going to be the aggression down onto Inbound. Cataclysm coming through. He's barely going to be able to shield himself and stay alive as we see Ryan going into the backline, getting the damage onto Crimson, pushing him out. Delnyy comes in, trying to be the cleanup crew, but Jumpahhh looking to make that one his play, tossing him back into the wall, going to be able to pick up that kill. Now Matt Koiz forced to run away with the pillars to keep himself safe.
Matt Koiz barely avoiding getting that poison spread on top of him. Think if that had actually connected, then Jumpahhh might have looked for another follow-up possibility with Delnyy, but even losing one member, the rest of Strictly Business was just too poked out to stick around, and now it's just a free Fire Giant for Myth Gaming.
Exactly what they needed to be able to try and find some Phoenixes at this point. Although the problem still stands that Strictly Business have a good defense composition if they want to come through. It's going to be harder to fight under the Phoenix, so Myth need to be on point when they come into it. And they're looking for the immediate aggression. I kind of like this call just to make sure that they can get the pressure down before Ryan Jarman can come and get back.
All they really need to do is make oBoronic waste his Taiko drums on a fake-out initiation, but that won't even be necessary because the middle Phoenix is already gone.
About the time it took for you to say middle Phoenix was about the time his health bar managed to live. Now the second one on the left-hand side getting taken down. We have the shots coming through from the backline from Keegs. He's going to be able to get a little bit of damage spread all across the board. Fatal Ghost sitting about 2/3 health, not able to do a lot, and the Phoenix is still getting ticked down the entire time. Jumpahhh, being a perfect distraction, his low health bar wants to pull everyone on Strictly Business over there. And that's going to allow the rest of Myth Gaming to confirm that Phoenix.
Matt Koiz just couldn't stand in front of that Phoenix tanking those tower shots. It was just too much damage from Crimson. As soon as he got that heat in the soul passive fully stacked up and getting that extra boost on his in-hands, it was way too much for Matt Koiz to handle.
Trying to farm up, trying to do whatever they can on the side of Strictly Business to come back and get this. Because again, it's not the end of the world for them to lose the first game, but they have kind of a reputation at this point to uphold when it comes through with it. Myth on the rise, being able to finally show that they are going to be, instead of having it 2-2-2, maybe 3-1-2, I guess, kind of splitting up North America a little bit oddly, but being able to show that they are here, they are ready, and they have the practice.
Myth Gaming really just trying to establish themselves as one of the top-tier teams in the SEL, and with their performances so far this split, I think it's pretty safe to say that they are certainly approaching that top-tier spectrum.
One more team fight is all it would take for Myth Gaming to be able to close this one out. That being said, still a lot for Strictly Business to do in terms of defense. They're losing the objectives. They're stuck pushing up fire minions, but they are still in a position with one Phoenix and one Titan. You can kind of sweep this back around. You can come in and potentially find the team wipe that your team would need to be able to run back down. Some towers stand in their way, and it might not be the immediate kill on the Titan that they would want to return it. But they do have a good defensive setup right here as long as they keep focused on the right-hand side and don't get too far separated just by these fire minions.
That damage from Jumpahhh, though, onto Ryan Jarman was actually kind of insane, considering that that's one of the frontliners, and he just lost like 3/4 of his health. Speaking of which,
not looking good.
Delnyy getting a little close there, but he'll be fine.
Kaeydan going to eat the ult from Serqet. The Age is going to be good to be able to get some of that damage off, and he can run back and heal up as that wears through. There's going to be the Aegis off board for him. Serqet off board for Jumpahhh as he's looking for the aggression to come in. The Pluck's going to be not that great onto Crimson as he doesn't get flung back, and Matt Koiz just a couple hits from dead, going to be able to walk around, but actually chooses to stay in to throw out the pillars instead of going back to heal, going to be able to give his team just a little bit more push, a little bit more control, and a little bit more clout, but they still lose the Phoenix.
But there's still so many fire creeps pouring into Strictly Business's base right now. Matt Koiz threw out the Dharmic Pillars, expecting Myth Gaming to continue chasing them into their own fountain room, but Myth displaying excellent discipline and just backing off, focusing the objective, and now that they have 3-wave strong of fire creeps that are about to happen, this is not looking good for Strictly Business's Titan.
Being able to group up, come in, healed up a little bit right now is going to be Delnyy. Inbound going to get plucked back, and he's not too upset about that. He doesn't have the Cataclysm, but he does have the control, and Ryan going to be the first one to take this kill. Kaeydan in the backline trying to do whatever he can, but over the wall, Crimson gets the kill. Low health, all he needs to do is be able to stay alive. Separate going to be able to help with that one as he heals up slowly. One more hit is all it will take. Going to be able to get into the fountain is Kaeydan, but he loses Fatal Ghost. Matt Koiz not able to have the same impact. Fire minions and regular minions alike running into the Titan. And Myth Gaming going to come in and take game number 1 right out from Strictly Business.
That Supernova was a disgusting amount of damage onto oBoronic. He was trying to get that ultimate off, the Taiko drums rearing to go, but once you're up in that ult, you're kind of just stuck sitting there unless you choose to cancel it or finish it, and he got the choice to do neither.
And a lot that came out of that one was, when it came down to it, split push, or not even split push, just regular push coming through. Crimson and Keegs both having the ability to knock down towers a little bit easier, and the Fire Giant, again, augmenting that one. Once it came down to objective versus team fight, they were able to focus down one and then turn it into the other.
That was really the main difference between these two teams. Even though Strictly Business was a little bit cleaner in their initial starting points of the game as far as engagements are concerned and finding the picks, it was really just a great coordination effort by Myth Gaming to make sure that they could spread the map so wide that they were able to get the split push off successfully.
And there was a lot going into them there, and a lot that they had building up their team, because they started out pretty far behind. It was a relatively rough match, but being able to push forward, the combos that they had coming into it, the way that they were able to keep control of it, just turned Strictly Business around. Like, they didn't seem like they knew exactly how to handle it.
It seemed as though Ryan Jarman had a great mentality. He was playing the initiation or the starting point of that counter engage for Strictly Business, but the problem that he ran into was once the game started progressing later and later, and Crimson, Jumpahhh, they started getting their damage a little bit online just because of the delays. I think that Gold Fury steal as well, that very first Gold Fury that they somehow managed to strip away from Strictly Business, and I still think that might have been Keegs with that Centaurus over the wall, and then maybe finding just a little bit of follow-up damage, but whoever it was definitely saved face for Myth Gaming.
But